Okay, so for this example, I'm going to introduce you to the switch statement. Prior to that, let's review a little bit of how an if statement can be used for a selection. Let's suppose I have a menu that I want to select a few things from, right? So let's say I have a menu here, something like this, printf. And let's center it a little bit, /t/t, main menu, /n. And let's keep on putting more things here, printf. And then we'll put a /t/t, something like this, enter your name or some sort of a selection. So let's say if you pick one, maybe you could do, you can do an addition, right? So as an operation, okay? And let's say printf, if you do /t/t2, you could do a subtraction. Simple calculator maybe. There you go. Let's suppose if you pick 3, that would be multiplication. And let's stop right here. So /n. And now we need a variable for the choice we want to do, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do a bunch of if statements based on whatever any of these is. We're going to figure out which one you want. So let's say I have something like this, int choice. And then what's going to happen is, right here, I'm going to ask the user, printf, enter your choice. No /n, I want the prompt to be right here. So scanf, and that would be a %d, and choice. Okay? All right, so this menu will appear, and you will be asked to enter a value. So let's compile and run this quickly, so you can see what the effect of this code yields. So we have 1, 2, 3. So whatever one you pick, that will be the end of the program. Now, let's suppose, and as a review, we're going to have some function calls, or to do addition or subtraction. Let's say we have void addition as an operation, and let's say we have void subtraction as an operation. So right now what I'm doing are what we call function prototypes from a previous lesson, right? So void multiplication. This way I can reuse the code, right? So let's go ahead and define each one of them as a separate process. So void addition, and you'll be asked to enter 2 numbers. So float num1, num2, and then printf add enter 2 numbers to be added. And let's say we do scanf, and then here %f, %f. So we're going to enter them all at the same time. And %num1 and %num2. Right? We've done this before where you can enter all the numbers at once, right? Separated by a space. And then you can print the sum equals, and that would be a %.1f, let's say at 1 decimal point precision, /n. And that would be num1 plus num2, right? So we could do something like that, where the addition is done on the spot. Let's close the curly brace. That will be the addition. So we're going to do the same thing for subtraction, the same thing for multiplication. So I'm going to copy this. And we're going to do subtraction here. Paste this, except this time we're going to subtract. So enter two numbers, and we're going to do minus the difference. Okay, and subtraction. Let me just write that better. There you go. And then we're going to do multiplication, right? So we're going to do the same thing. Void multiplication. So this is a good review for what we've done already. And in here, we're going to multiply to be multiplied. And instead of a plus, you're going to do, and let's call it result. Okay? So these operations are ready for us to use, and they're within their own functions. Okay? So now it's a matter of using them. So let me just save and compile. Let me just compile here just to make sure I didn't make any mistakes. Looks good. All right. So now let's go ahead and have an if statement based on choice. If choice equals equals. This is how you compare to 1. Then go ahead and call addition. Okay? Else, let's do, let's say you didn't pick that, and let's do a nested if statement. If, and notice I'm not going to put a curly brace because that if statement is considered a single line. You could say choice equals equals 2 this time. Then you're going to go ahead and call the subtraction, right? So 2 is for subtraction. So you're going to call the function subtraction. Else, well, you probably picked 3, but let's just make sure that's what you picked. If, just in case you picked 4, we want to print an error, right? Choice equals equals 3. Then go ahead and call multiplication. Else, print an error. Printf. No such item on the menu. Here you go. /n. Which means you didn't pick 1, 2, 3. You picked something else. Maybe a 0, minus a 1, 1500. I don't know. Anything but 1, 2, 3. This here is an example of nested if statement. So we're going to do it in this example. So let's compile it and run. Compile and run. And, forgot a semicolon right here. There you go. And let's say you pick addition. Right? So you've got 23 space 5.5. And here's the result. Let's say you picked the wrong thing. Let's say you pick 4, which is not on the menu. Okay? Let's pick subtraction. And that would be 2, option 2. And 23.1 minus 7.2. And here's the result. Okay, let's pick multiplication just to make sure that everything works. Let's run here. Now I'm going to show you an alternate way to do this, right? So, 3 multiplication, 2 space 7, and that's 14. Now, let's suppose, let me put all of this and what we call a comment block, which means it will not be executed. None of these if statements will be executed. We're going to look at an alternate way of doing this. You could do something like this. If choice equals 0, and this is what we call a serial if statements. You could do something like this. Addition without the nested if statements. And then if, notice no else, choice equals 1, then go ahead and do subtraction. Now this has a drawback, but it will still work. And if choice equals what is it? 2, we're going to do multiplication. Choice 1 is, and 2 is subtraction. Got my numbers a little shifted here. And 3 is multiplication. Let's just go ahead and do multiplication. Now the problem with this one is that you're going to have to hard code any other thing. For example, if choice is greater than 3 or less than 1, then you can print an error. So you could say printf, and then we could do the same thing we just did. No such item on the menu. It means you picked something out of range. So this is the alternate way of doing it if you're writing it in a serial manner. So let's go ahead and do this. Compile and run. And I bet you I forgot a semicolon somewhere. Sure enough, I did with the multiplication. And let's go ahead, compile and run again. Forgot to write choice here. Okay, remember, after the OR operator, you're going to have to repeat the second statement. What is it you want, right? So it needs a left and right. Compile and run. There you go. And let's say I pick 0. So we know 0 is out of range. No such item. Okay. Let's say I pick 4. So let me run here. Just show you that it will not pick anything other than what's in the range. So let's say I pick 4, and again, no such item. Let's pick something way out of range, and let's run it again. And let's pick 22, and again, no such item. So let's pick subtraction, just show that it actually works. And that would be 2, and enter 2 numbers, 3, space, and 5. And the result of that is -2. So what's the difference between this nested if statement right here and this one? Well, with this one, you will evaluate each one of these if statements as you go down the code. So each one of them will be evaluated. On the other hand, this one here, if this is true, then none of this code will be evaluated, which is a lot faster in terms of processing time. Right? So if you did pick 1, then addition will be executed. Anything under that else, any of the highlighted area will not be even evaluated. The only time you get in, if you didn't pick 1, then it will ask you, did you pick 2? And if you didn't indeed pick 2, then whatever is below it will not be evaluated. The only time that you would go through all of this is if you picked anything other than 1, 2, 3. Obviously, it will evaluate to the last line. Here, on the other hand, it evaluates every time, no matter what you pick, either something out of range or within range. Okay? And there is an alternative to these if statements. So let me cut this here. And what I'm going to do here, it's paste here, is remove all of these lines of code and show you now a switch statement that does a similar job. Okay, so here's how it works. Switch, it's a function basically, it's a specialized function where you need to supply it with the variable that you're evaluating with, which is choice. And then open curly brace and close curly brace. It is a whole bunch of block of codes that you're going to need here. Case. So if you have, you're going to go by case. In case it's 1, you're going to call addition. And then if that's true, I need you to break. Break means get out of there. I don't need you to go further down and evaluate the next case, which will be right below it. So break allows you to get out of this curly braces code, anything up below that. Okay, so if you did pick addition, then this case 2 will not be evaluated. Okay, however, if it's not 1, then it will ask about 2. So it's similar to a nested if statement, except you will notice that the code is a lot easier to write without a lot of tabulation for a nested if statement. As you can see, as you write nested if statements, you tabulate to visually express which line belongs to what if statement, right? So there won't be any confusion. Here, you could see how simple and straightforward this is, subtraction. And then break again. So every time you're going to have to break, and I'll show you when you don't need to break. Case, and let's say you picked 3. Well, that would be multiplication. And then, again, break, get me out of there. Now, let's suppose you didn't pick 1, 2, 3. Then that case is called default. So it means anything other than 1, 2, 3 is going to be called default. In that case, go ahead and print your error message right here. And then we're going to say no such item on the menu. All right? So it's going to have the same effect of what we've seen before. So much easier to write. But this is only good if choice, listen carefully, is either an integer or a character. Okay? Well, character is really internally, it's an integer value. So this only works with technically integers. So you can't use or do a switch on a string or a switch on a float, right? So you're going to have to do this on integers. Let's see how this behaves now. So let's compile and run. And I got a little bit of subtraction. Okay. It sees that function doesn't exist, right? So I need to write properly. So compile and run again. Here you go. Now we're in business. Now let's say I pick 4. And that will go to default. No such item, right? And notice I need to put a /n there. So let me go ahead and put a /n. Let me recompile and run and put a 0. And let's put a 0 here. No such item on the menu. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and do a multiplication. So compile and run. And this time I'm going to pick 3. And sure enough, 2 and 3. So that's 6. Excellent. All right, so see you for the next lessons to delve deeper in if statement, nested if statements, and the use of switch.